The success in your interview is going to come down to the quality of the questions that you ask. And there's three main types of questions during an interview. The first is discovery questions. So these are questions that get the conversation flowing. So just like an interviewer may ask you a question about a specific scenario or a question that tell me about yourself. Maybe that's more of a statement than a question. But these discovery questions are who, what, where, when, why, anything that gets the interviewer opening up and that conversation flowing. Easiest way to make a discovery question if you're looking for ways to make conversation happen in the interview is to flip the questions the interviewer asks you back on them. So if they ask you to tell you about a time that you've resolved a conflict with an employee, um, don't ask the same question, but flip it around and say, hey, what does the team dynamic look like? Is there conflict? Is it healthy conflict? How do you resolve conflicts as the manager between teammates? How do you manage conflicts between departments? So take what they're asking you and flip it on its head because oftentimes they're asking because it might be a problem within the organization and they need someone that can fix that problem. So asking those discovery questions opens up the conversation to be more two-way, and it is also revealing for you as you're going through the interview process. Second type of question to ask is confirmation type question. So getting a sense of did you get the answer right? And really this is just feedback to see how you performed. And best way to do that is to combine it with a discovery question as saying something like, hey, if you hear the question, tell me about a time that you resolved conflict. One thing that you can do is after sharing some info, this is best used on having a brief answer and then turning the question and saying, that's normally how I approach it, but I'm curious to hear your take. Is that how you would do it, or does your team handle it differently? And so you do two things with that. One, you get feedback on your answer, but then you get the perspective of how, the team is operating. You get the interviewer talking as well. It becomes a conversation in that regard. So the feedback question is really helpful to see how you're doing throughout the interview. And then the third type of question is the way to close the interview, and it's very similar to the feedback question. But what we're doing in this case is asking if there's anything that they would be opposed to, or any doubts that they would have before moving you on in the process. So now what we're doing is pulling those doubts out and making sure that you have time and effort to resolve them before the conclusion of the interview. And if there are no doubts, what it does is it helps conclude the interview and it allows you to take it to the next step. So with those three types of questions, discovery, and then using getting the feedback with the follow-up questions, and then resolving or pulling out any doubts from the interviewer at the end, you're going to have a really comprehensive interview. And make sure that you're using those questions in that order. Don't want to try to extract doubts from or conclude the interview at the beginning. So as you work on those types of questions, you'll see a noticeable difference in interviews. And really, this is a conversation skill, something that can help make conversations go really well, whether you're talking with a customer, a client, or even just a friend. So